The historical identity of Mary I, the undisputed Queen Regnant of England, has undergone a radical transformation over nearly 5 centuries. While her reign lasted a mere 5 years, from 1553 to 1558, the psychological and cultural impact of her life has generated a vast body of folklore and paranormal reports that persist into the present day. Known to popular history as Bloody Mary, a nickname born of propaganda and the execution of nearly 300 religious dissenters, her identity has shifted from a historical sovereign into a global supernatural myth. The transformation of Mary Tudor's reputation began almost immediately after her death. The overwhelming success of John Foxe's Acts and Monuments, first published in 1563, was instrumental in this process. By writing the stories of those burned at the stake during her reign, Foxe turned the Queen into a paranoid, desperate figure of terror. The paranormal reports associated with Mary I are deeply tied to the extreme instability of her early life. She went from being the beloved heir to an illegitimate outcast following the annulment of her parents' marriage. Forced to serve as a lady-in-waiting to her half-sister Elizabeth, and denied access to her mother, Catherine of Aragon, even as the elder woman lay dying, Mary developed a rigid adherence to her faith as a form of survival. These traumatic years are believed to have left an emotional imprint on the buildings she inhabited, particularly Hampton Court and St. James's Palace. Sawston Hall in Cambridgeshire holds one of the few positive ghost stories associated with Mary I. In July 1553, Mary was a fugitive fleeing the forces of the Duke of Northumberland. She found refuge at Sawston Hall, the home of the loyal Huddleston family. As she escaped the hall, disguised as a milkmaid, riding pillion behind a groom, she looked back from a nearby hill to see the building being torched by Northumberland's soldiers. She famously told Sir John Huddleston, "Let it blaze. When I am queen, I will build the Huddlestons a better house." True to her word, she provided stone from Cambridge Castle for the rebuilding of the hall in the late 1550s. The hauntings at Sawston Hall are distinct for their auditory nature. In the 1930s, Claire Huddleston, the wife of the hall's owner, reported hearing a spinet being played in empty rooms. Although the house had a harpsichord, she insisted the sound was that of a spinet, an instrument Mary was known to play expertly since the age of 2. Other visitors have reported seeing a ghostly apparition of the Queen herself roaming the tapestry room, where she spent her final restless night before her escape. St. James's Palace served as Mary's primary residence in her final years and was the location of her death on the 17th of November, 1558. In accordance with the traditions of the time, her heart was removed and buried separately from her body. It rests beneath the choir stalls in the Chapel Royal of St. James's. The palace is generally closed to the public, which has led to a more private, internal tradition of ghost stories among the staff. Historical records from one of Mary's ladies-in-waiting describe the Queen leaving the palace at night with just a few attendants to visit the surrounding neighbourhoods in disguise. One story recounts her visiting the home of a shoemaker to ask why he hadn't been paid by the Royal Exchequer. These nocturnal walkabouts have given rise to modern reports of a small group of women in Tudor dress seen walking the streets of St. James's after dark, only to suddenly vanish. The most widespread spooky story associated with Mary is the mirror summoning ritual. While many people believe they are calling upon the Tudor Queen, historians and folklorists found that the ritual, as it is known today, only began to come about in the late 1960s and early 1970s. The legend typically involves standing in a darkened room, usually a bathroom because they lack windows, and chanting Bloody Mary a specific number of times into a mirror. The reported results of the summoning vary. Some claim the ghost appears and screams, while others report physical attacks, such as scratches on the face or arms. Some darker versions involve the participant chanting, "I killed your baby, Bloody Mary," a direct reference to the Queen's tragic pregnancies. In another version, the participant must walk backward up a flight of stairs, holding a candle and a mirror. Seeing a man's face meant a future husband, while seeing a skull meant death before marriage. The nursery rhyme Mary, Mary, quite contrary, is often cited in folklore as a coded history of Mary I's reign. While many historians view this as a later interpretation, the symbolic associations are now a permanent part of the Bloody Mary myth. The garden in the rhyme is interpreted as the graveyards filled with the Protestants she executed, while the silver bells and cockleshells are alleged to be instruments of torture. The pretty maids, all in a row, are said to represent guillotines or rows of those executed, though the guillotine was not actually used in Tudor England. The spectral legacy of Mary I is a testament to how trauma and propaganda can transform a historical figure into a lasting cultural nightmare. In life, Mary was a woman of deep faith who was broken by the political secret plans of her father and the failure of her own body. In death, she has been denied the quiet grave she requested, placed instead beneath the sister who dismantled her life's work.